Minions! Tell me, what are your deepest, darkest feelings? Would they be to ritualistically bully a female player at your table for not being girly enough? No. Well, unfortunately that's the scenario in today's story. And as sad as it is, there are lessons to be learned. With that, let's roll for initiative and see how this plays out. So, first things first. Whilst this is my first post, I've been lurking in this part of Reddit for a while, as well as having watched tons of videos of different people reading out horror stories from here, or talk of their own experiences. Also, this is not technically my horror story, though I was present at the time and it was the reason I left what had been my TTRPG group for going on 6 years. I did ask permission of the person whose story this is, and she's even given me an update, which I will put at the end. And I just want to add a bit of a content warning, real quick, for sexism against a girl player in an all-male group, since I feel like that may be triggering to some people. But nobody ever got handsy or physically violent. So, basically at the time, we were a table of 5 people, our DM included. We had been playing together for a bunch of years, like I said, when one of the other players introduced a new person. I'll call her Rose, for the purposes of this post. We had just finished our previous campaign, which had been vampire-themed, and were looking for a more classic high-fantasy D&D adventure, which was why the other player, I'll call him Rogue since that was his class for this new game, decided this would be a great time to bring Rose in, whom he'd known for a little while then. Apart from Rose and Rogue, and me, I played a fighter because I like being a tank in game. There was our DM, and 2 more guys who played a bard and a warlock, respectively. This feels like a good time to mention. All of us at the table were guys, and Rogue was the only female player. This will be important. Trust me. So, we made our characters and got to know each other a bit, and then started playing. Rose's character was a pink tiefling druid. I forget her character's name, who was essentially built up on the premise of, looks like a cinnamon roll, could actually kill you. I thought that was a fun concept, especially because her character was an interesting contrast to our dirty, gruff, typical high fantasy male characters. Her roleplay was also great. She'd play the tiefling as super cute and sweet, only for her to be the most vicious in fights. I thought it was amazing, but as I came to learn, the others did not agree. I think we'd also been playing for maybe half a year pretty regularly, and I was under the impression that there was a lot of the same opinion when it came to Rose. That she was nice, fun, and played a cool character. But then the big thing happened that taught me better. About a month before the big thing, I noticed that especially Rogue and Warlock started acting sort of ruder towards Rose than I'd previously noticed. But since they'd both just started university, I figured maybe it was just stress. Feel free to call me an oblivious oaf because, my god, I was oblivious. And I didn't say anything. Rose, for what it's worth, did not seem too bothered by it either. But then over that month, everything became more and more tense, and I noticed our DM started to deal her character more damage. But I thought it had to do with something from her character's backstory that would be revealed later or something, since she never brought it up herself. Then, finally, the big thing. A fight against a goon that I think was supposed to be our big bad evil guy's, like, primary minion or something. The DM was definitely dealing Rose more damage than usual now, and then suddenly declared that the goon mind-controlled Rogue and Warlock. I expected them to protest, but they really got into it. And when the DM had them attack Rose's character, they seemed more energetic than they had all session. Bard and my character resisted the charm of the goon, but when I wanted to step in and defend Rose's character, the DM said I was too far away. Bard did not step in, claiming his character was too shocked. Warlock and Rogue, under DM's lead, punched Rose's character to the death's brink, and then the mind control of the goon finally let up. But instead of helping Rose's character, everyone just started attacking the goon. I tried to have my character stop the bleeding and keep Rose's character alive till Bard could hear her, but the DM said I was too shocked to do anything useful. I got mad at him, but he sort of just cut me off and turned back to the fight. The party did defeat the goon, and I started calling to the Bard to come heal Rose. but he just said no. Warlock and Rogue didn't say anything when both Rose and I started to argue now. Some context. Rose was really into angsty RP, and I think up until that point she at least was in for that. But when she realized that the party had turned against her, she got rightfully mad. I don't remember how exactly the session ended, but basically the other players let Rose's character die, and the Dungeon Master did not let me fight them on that, nor let me even attempt to help since I was a knight, so I can't heal and must focus on the mission. Even though my character's personality was very cliché Shining Knight gentleman-like. Rose didn't return to the table with a new character the next session. When I showed up to our next meeting, the other guys were laughing and mocking her, and talked about how they were really glad she was gone. I got mad, and demanded they explain why the hell that was. No idea why I didn't ask them in the previous session. I genuinely don't remember. And they told me they'd been planning to essentially bully Rose out of the game for a while, since they apparently did not like that she played a pink character in a flower crown that did not act cute or like a girl. Yeah, I don't know. But I told them they were dicks and left the group there and then. I'm embarrassed that I never noticed how awful these guys were before. And honestly, it was probably because before Rose, there hadn't been any other female people in our tiny social circle, and since we didn't hang out outside of our sessions, I had not seen them act sexist, though I'm sure the signs were all there, and I was just blind to them. I did text Rogue a few days after and asked him why he had even brought Rose to our group if he had hated her so much, and he flat out admitted he'd hoped she'd play a character he could seduce in-game. Apparently, she had mentioned she wanted to try D&D, and he had seen this as a chance, or whatever. So yeah, pretty awful group, and I'm glad I left. This was like 4 or 5 years ago now, by the way. I recently got back in contact with Rose. She happened to be in the same seminar as me in university, and we had a good talk about everything. That is when I asked her if I could post this horror story, and she not only said yes, but she told me what became of her after. She participated in some sort of online character swap. If you had a D&D character or OC to retire, you could swap it for another person's retired character, sort of like D&D adoption. Her character was adopted by someone who used the whole thing of the party collectively killed the druid as a tragic backstory, resurrecting the character as a druid and Death Domain Warlock multiclass. If I remember correctly. It sounds cool, and Rose said the other player had a lot of fun with the pink tiefling. Rose herself apparently turned to local LARPs after that, but that isn't my scene, so I haven't played with her since. I don't know. I feel like I contributed to the bad situation for Rose, even though she told me that out of all the guys, I was at least not a jackass. But if anything, this experience opened my eyes to how sexist many tabletop RPG and nerd spaces are towards women. Definitely changed how I interact in fandom spaces now. So, what do you think? Does this count as a horror story? End post. Yes, OP. Yes, it does count as a horror story. I would like to think that this problem has mostly gone away in recent years. And as much as we kind of crap on it in the community, this is likely due to Critical Role's influence on the scene as a whole. You know, with their whole inclusion message, which, honestly, in my opinion, has been fantastic for the scene. It's never had as many players as it has had now, and people are doing a lot more creative things with their characters due to all of the new inclusion in the community. You know, new mindsets. And yeah, everyone with the exception of OP and Rose were dicks at this table. There's no reason to bully a player. If you don't like them in your table, let them know and ask them to leave. Yes, that would still make you a dick, but at the very least, you're not bullying them out of the table. That is way worse, and really sets a bad tone for the scene as a whole. I mean, Rose still has not played the game since then. Her only experience was this one terrible experience, when, by all accounts, her character's roleplay was fantastic. And if I'm being honest, she played the embodiment of what I think of as tiefling. She did a really good job, at least according to the OP's description. So yeah, maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call to be on the lookout for individuals being sexist or even racist or anything negative to this space, as this kind of mentality is a detriment to the scene as a whole. There is no benefit to acting this way and bullying people out of it. And on that note, that's it for this video. If If you haven't done so already and you want to hear more horror stories, I've got a podcast. Search up Short Tales of RPG Horror in any of the podcast apps out there, or check the description for a link, and I publish a new podcast episode every Monday with short tales of horror. Basically stuff that's way too short for YouTube, but is pretty nice in an anthology form for a podcast, whether you're driving to work, doing chores, going to school, etc. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon here on YouTube to be notified of my future videos. Now, while you wait for my future videos, here are a few related videos that you can watch in the meantime.